Hello?
Yes, we are audible. We are listening. I think he's gone.
Yeah, Michael can start now.
I think he's gone. So Michael, let's take it. We'll wrap up those things at the end.
Good. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll introduce myself again because not everyone was here earlier. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael. I'm the author of an open source e-commerce framework named Vendure, and that's what we're going to be doing a workshop about today. I'm based in Vienna in Austria. I'm originally from England, and this is the first time I've done a remote workshop, so I'm very excited about it. And we've got about an hour, so let's get started. So I would like to, I think I'll share my screen right now. Hold on a sec. Okay. So Vendure is, as you see here, this is the homepage. It's described as a modern, headless, GraphQL-based e-commerce framework built with TypeScript and Node.js. Now, there's a lot of technical terms in there. So I'm going to explain each one. But just before we do that, I want to be able to see the chat when I'm sharing my screen. So let me see if I can do that. Chat.
You can find it at the bottom.
Okay, it's kind of floating. All right, I got it. Great. So if anyone has questions, I can see the questions. Right. So headless, first of all, what is headless? This is kind of a scary term, but don't worry, it's not so scary. Headless is a way to describe a particular kind of architecture in software design. So if we think about traditional content management systems, say something like WordPress, you may be familiar with or heard of, and these allow you to write content and then publish it, and then it also generates a website which displays that content. On the other hand, there's the headless approach. It doesn't generate the website itself. It exposes an API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, which is basically a place where you can get the information you need to then build your website. This will become more clear if it's not already clear. It should become more clear as we go through the workshop. So here on the screen, I'm showing you an example of this. An advantage here is that, let's say here in this API, we can have all your content, all your articles, or in this case, all your product information. And we can share that with a website application, an Android app, an iOS app, or any other kind of application that wants to use that information. So that's headless. GraphQL. GraphQL is a kind of a new technology. It came from Facebook, but now it's very, very widely used by many companies. And it's just a method of obtaining information from the API. And it allows you to have this very powerful way of asking for very particular bits of information, and then that will be delivered to your application. And it makes writing applications with that information much easier. Okay, and TypeScript is a programming language. If you've not heard of it before, it's a version of JavaScript, which adds a few extra features to JavaScript to make certain tasks easier or more reliable. And Node.js, and that's the thing that I asked you to download if you want to follow along. Node.js is it's a platform that allows you to run code that's written in JavaScript or TypeScript. And Node.js is what Vendure is built on top of. Okay, so with that, let's go into the outline. What I want to do in this workshop is we're going to create a an e-commerce server, which will allow us to enter product information, track different products, orders, customers, basically everything you need to build an online shop. We're going to build that server. We're going to learn a little bit about how it works, how GraphQL works, and so on. We're going to then create a storefront where you can, which is like the website where the customers will go to buy your stuff. And hopefully we'll be able to fit all of that in to the next 50 minutes or so. So let's get started with the tasks. The first thing we're going to do is install Vendure. And this is done, let's see, through some kind of command line. If you're on Windows, you might have command.exe, or if you use Git, then you've got git bash. If someone sees this right here and you don't know what it is or how to get it on your computer, please just zoom in on the text. Okay, let me make this full screen and go big. How's the size there? Hopefully that's okay. Great, good. Okay, we're happy with that. Okay, so just quickly, does anyone have any questions about how to open up something like this where you can type commands in? How to download Vendure? We'll get to that. It doesn't work in the way of downloading it from a website. So the way that JavaScript and a lot of web development is done is through the use of a package manager. We need git bash. You can do it in command as well. It should work fine in command. It just won't look as nice. So yeah, this kind of web development is done through a package manager. A package manager is a piece of software which allows you to download and install JavaScript packages, JavaScript libraries or applications, and it manages it for you. So you don't have to go on websites and find the website and click on it and download a zip and unzip it. It kind of does that all for you, and it allows you to manage all that just through typing commands into an interface like what you see here. I'll demonstrate. So if you have Node installed, you should be able to type node -v, and -v is asking it to show you the version. So you can see I've got Node version 12.16.3. Any version below 13 should work fine. And even if you have 13 or 14, it's basically going to work. There might be a couple of things you find don't work as expected, but you should still be able to follow along. Node comes with a package manager software called npm Node Package Manager. I can also write npm-v, and I can see that I have npm version 6.14.4 installed. Again, the version of that is not so important, but I should say that Node version 10, I think Node version 12 should be the minimum. So if you've got 10 or 11 or 9 or 8 or something lower, then you might run into problems and you might want to upgrade. Okay, so let's clear that. All right, so I'm going to be following some instructions which I can show you. Oops, I'll share a link. So just in case you miss something that I say, you can refer to this. On the Vendure website, you'll see there's a link here, developers, and then documentation. If you click on this, there's a getting started guide. And this is what I'm going to be following here. I'll just post a link to that directly in the chat. So you can click on that link in the chat and this will take you to this page. And we're going to follow along with this guide right here. It's only got a couple of steps. So the first thing that you want to do is this command right here, npx vendure create my app. NPX is a tool that comes along with NPM, and it allows you to just run packages directly. So I'm going to type npx vendure /create, and then the next argument is the name of the application. So I'm going to call it my shop, and I'm going to press enter. And this bit's going to take a little while. First of all, it's going to ask me some questions. Okay, so this Vendure Create is a tool which basically helps you to get up and running with a project very quickly, and it asks you a few questions to find out how it should configure your new Vendure application. So first question, it's saying, which database are you using? Vendure supports a few different kinds of databases. For now, I recommend you choose SQLite because it's the most simple and it doesn't require you to set up anything else like a separate database server. So you should choose SQLite, press enter. Which programming language will you be using? I would recommend to select TypeScript. And then it asks, do you want to populate it with some sample product data? And you should say yes, because it's gonna be more interesting to play with then. And the next one asks you, what do you want to call the super admin user? The super admin is a special administrator user that gets created, which allows you to then set up the rest of your shop. So by default, the username is super admin and the password is also super admin. So I'm just going to press enter on both of those. And now it's going to install. This is now going to take probably a minute or two as it goes to the NPM package registry and retrieves all the different various parts that are needed to put together. Okay, I'm going too fast. Okay, I can't keep up. Okay, well, what if you have MySQL Workbench? If you have MySQL already installed and you're happy connecting to that, then that's fine. You can use that as well. Okay, so this stage is, as I said, it's going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to look at some questions here. From first, please. I'm sorry, I don't understand that message. Yeah, if you could clarify, you can, if anyone has any questions, ask them now. How to connect with existing MySQL. If there's any questions on how to connect with an existing database, I would suggest just use SQLite. Rather than we getting into debugging connections with MySQL. If you just use SQLite, you don't have to worry about any connection stuff. My PC says the file already exists when I try to create my shop. There's no, okay, so we've got some, a few people running some issues. Okay, so I guess in a workshop like this, where we're all trying to do something new, there's going to be some people running into problems. I'll try to help you if we can do it quickly without holding up the whole thing. Should I use, I already have MySQL Workbench, should I use SQLite instead? I recommend that everyone use SQLite because it's just the most simple for now. So there's some people who are not seeing the same thing on their screen as what I've been showing. It may be to do with using different terminal software. Does it work the same way for Mac? It should work exactly the same for Mac and Linux. Someone says that the PC says file already exists. Okay, just check in that directory then. If you get an error saying the file already exists, check in the directory, and if there's any file already there, just delete it. That's called any folder called my shop, delete it, and then try again. So here on my end, we're still installing the dependencies. And we should probably have another minute or two while this all installs. There's quite a lot of stuff that gets installed now, which is why it takes a while. Will it create, someone asks, will it create a problem using SQLite for this and Workbench for other? No, it's not a problem. In fact, once it's already installed, you can choose to connect it to a different database. It's fine. It's just asking initially what database you will use to populate the kind of sample data. So use SQLite for that. Is it possible to do data migration from SQLite to other databases? Yes, it is. Totally. Does it use material design? No, it doesn't use material design. In the admin UI application, I actually use a library called Clarity, which comes from VMware. The reason why I use that over something like material design is that I find it more suitable for kind of admin type interfaces. The information is more dense. Material design is sometimes too kind of big. It's good for consumer apps, I think, but for something where you need to have a lot of information densely packed, material design can get a little bit too much space between things. The buttons are too big, my opinion. An error occurred when I installed dependencies. I'm sorry to hear it. Maybe if you paste the error message, I might be able to give you a clue. Does it have any payment methods by default? No kind of real ones. It has like a dummy payment method, but I can show you a little bit about payment integrations later if we have time. Okay, so I think my npm install is finished, and now it says success, created a new Vendure server. We suggest you start by typing blah. Okay, happy hacking, great. So I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So let's just jump in here, development, my shop is right here. Okay, I'll open it up, I think with VS Code. And I'll show you what you've got now, or what you should have, hopefully, when that whole process is finished. I wonder if I can make this bigger. That didn't seem to do anything. Let's see. Increase current view size. That's not what I want. Zoom in. Okay. Okay, I'm going to make everything a bit bigger here. There's a better way to do it, but there we go. All right. And this is kind of small too. All right, you know what? I'm not going to use VS Code. I'm going to use a WebStorm because I know how to use it better, and I can show you everything bigger. Still in process. That's okay. It depends on the speed of your internet connection. It might take longer to download everything, but that's fine because I'm just going to give you a minute to let that finish. Okay, WebStorm's right here. Let me close down this project. Okay. And I'll open my shop. Where is it? Refresh that. There we go. My shop. Let's open that up in WebStorm. Good. Okay, so we've got some tech support on hand as well, if anyone needs help. Someone missed the first setup part. Okay, if anyone missed any parts of it, again, you can have a look at this page of documentation. It explains what I've just done basically. How do you select the database in Git Bash? So maybe you have this problem in Git Bash where you press the arrow keys and the selection doesn't seem to change. I've had that in the past. So what should happen is if you press the arrow key down twice, it is actually selecting SQLite, but it just the on-screen display doesn't change. There's a problem with Git Bash, I think, on that front. So just try pressing down twice and then press enter, and it might actually choose SQLite for you. That's for Rajiv. Okay, so yeah, here we are in the project that we've just now scaffolded. And let me see if I can make this a bit bigger for everyone to see. Okay, hopefully this is big enough now. So once you've finished installing Vendure, this is what you're left with. You have a bunch of files that it's put there and some folders. So node modules, this contains all the libraries that have been installed by NPM. As you can see, there's quite a lot of them. And that's very kind of common for JavaScript projects. They have lots and lots of libraries that they depend on. Don't worry about looking in that. You can kind of ignore it. The more important things are the files in here in this source directory and then this static directory. The source directory contains a configuration file. And this configuration file contains all the information that Vendure needs to know how it should operate, such as which database it's connecting to, what port the server should run on, and many other different settings. We don't have to understand them all now, but just know that this vendure config.ts file is containing all of that configuration. And then you've got two other files here, an index file and an index worker file. So these are the files which actually start the server. And there's two of them because Vendure consists of two parts, really. There's the main server, which is started with this index file. And then there's something called a worker. And the worker is responsible for taking care of jobs which sometimes take a long time and they have to run kind of in the background. An example of that would be when you need to send emails to people. Instead of sending emails from the server tells the worker, hey, we need to send all these emails to people. Go and do that as soon as you've got time. And this is just, it's made that way so that the performance of the main server is always given top priority. And any slow jobs or very computationally expensive jobs are performed on the worker. That's why it's made that way. There's also a static directory. This contains a bunch of email templates so that, for example, when someone makes a purchase and you send them an email saying, this is your order confirmation, the templates of these are contained in this directory here, email templates, for example, order confirmation right here. And it also contains a folder called assets, and this is basically storing product images. The other files you see here are not so important to understand right now. If you're not familiar with JavaScript development, then we won't go into that now because it gets a little bit too complicated for the time that we've got available. I'll just check for questions. Does the worker depend on some other native trigger like cron tab or supervisor? No, the way that the worker works is that the main server establishes a connection to the worker, typically by default via TCP connection, and it sends it messages such as, here's an email, please send this email, or please rebuild the search index, or something like this. That's how the worker is connected. All right, so let me just check my lesson plan, see where we're up to. So we've got a server running now. Okay. I want to check who's having difficulty. If you're having some difficulty, you can write now in the chat. And I'll take a minute just to make sure that we don't leave people behind if we can avoid it. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, so I will continue. So the next thing that we'll do is actually start the server. So as it says here, we suggest that you start by typing cd, change directory to my shop, and then yarn start. So I will do that, cd my shop. Here where it says on my computer, it says yarn start. On your computer, it might say npm run start. This depends on what kind of package manager you have installed. Yarn is an alternative package manager to npm, which I like to use, but it works in very much the same way as npm. So you may be running npm start run start, and I'll do that as well, just because I think more people will have npm installed. So now that I'm in the my shop directory right here, I'm going to now run npm run start. And that's going to tell the server and the worker to start up. This takes just a few seconds usually. Okay, it sends a few messages about how it's doing. Okay, now we see here it says Vendure server version 0.13.1 now running on port 3000. And then you see just below, there's a bunch of messages which tell you about different things that you can access through your browser. There's something called the shop API, the admin API. There's an asset server, which is responsible for serving the product images. There's a development mailbox, which you can use to view emails that have been sent while you're in development mode. And there's an admin UI, which you use to administer your shop. So first of all, I'm going to have a look at this URL right here, the shop API. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to open up the browser, a new tab, and I'll paste that URL in here, localhost port 3000. /shop API. I should see some. Okay, I think the Zoom software makes everything a little bit slower than usual. So if you visit this URL, you presented with this kind of interesting looking page with it looks like you can type in it. This is called the GraphQL playground. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to send queries to the Vendure server asking for particular bits of information, and it shows you what information it sends back. And this is when I mentioned the API, this is allowing you to directly interact with the API. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a shop. One typical thing you want to do is display a list of products. So of course, the Vendure server provides a way to show a list of products. And this is done through a query. And this is what a GraphQL query looks like. I'll maybe make this even bigger. The query, it has a name. It's called products. And then I open up these curly braces here, and then I can tell the server what particular product information I would like to receive. The nice thing about GraphQL is that it has a type system. This means that other tools such as this playground already know about what kind of information is available before you even ask for it. So for example, here, if I press Control and spacebar, it comes up with a drop-down list of the things that I'm able to ask about. So since this is a list, I can ask for some items, and each item represents a product. So I can ask for the ID of the product. I want to know the name of it. I want to know the description. And let's see, maybe I also want to know what language it's in. So once I've put together my query like this, I can then press the button right here. It will send a message off to the server, and the server responds. And it's given me a list of products. And you can see here that it's provided me with exactly that information that I asked for: the ID, the name, the description, and the language code. If, for example, I was to remove the description and ask for that, then it shows me the same result, just without the description this time. This is a very important property of GraphQL, and it's one of the reasons why it's gained so much popularity, because it means that web applications, websites, mobile phone applications only need to request the information that they really, really need. And this prevents the problem of them having to request lots and lots of information, which can be slow. It can use up the bandwidth. It can use up your mobile phone data limit and so on. And it also makes the application run slower if it has to download all of this information when it only actually needs a few little pieces here and there. So that's one of the big benefits of GraphQL. So another thing you can do with a GraphQL query is you can provide it with certain arguments. So for example, this products query can take an argument called options. And options you can tell it different parameters, such as, let's say, I want to take only 3 results. So whereas here I've got a whole bunch of results, if I take only 3, then I run the query again, and this time I have only 3 results. And we can verify that by asking for the total items. And you see the total items are 54, but it's actually only returned 3 because I asked for 3 right here. If I asked for 5, then it will return the first 5. So these kind of arguments are used, for example, for doing pagination on your website. If you want to show, you usually don't want to show your full list of all 1,000 or 10,000 products all on one page. You want to show them over a number of pages, or do some kind of system where the new page loads when you scroll to the bottom. So this is what such arguments are used for. Now, I'm interested to know who has reached this point where they have a Vendure server running and they can run queries on it. I hope at least some have. Yep. Oh, great. Okay, good. I'm happy about that. Raised hand. Oh, cool. The raised hand feature. Yep. Okay. So at least some of you have made it this far. And does anyone? Okay. And if anyone needs help, I guess they've got still the tech support line is open. I don't see any requests for help here in the main chat. So either everyone's doing great or they're asking questions in private. I don't know. Good. Okay. All right. So it looks like a lot of you keeping up. Any questions so far? Okay. If anyone has a question, just stick it into the group chat. I will keep an eye on it. So let's see where we're up to. Okay. So we've had a look at a little bit of how GraphQL works, and what a GraphQL query looks like and what the response looks like. But of course, when you're running an online shop, you don't want to be always typing in your commands like this. You want to have some kind of user interface. So luckily, Vendure comes with such a user interface, the admin UI. If we jump back over here, you'll see that the admin UI is available here at localhost port 3000/admin. Whoops, I accidentally shut down my server. I'm going to start it again. So we're going to now have a look at the admin UI and see what that looks like. So I'll paste that in here. Oops. Admin. Can we not run it in daemon mode? Of course you can. Yeah, and in production, I think it's not started yet. In production, you would maybe use something like PM2 or something like this, so you can run it like a daemon. If you don't understand what that means, don't worry. So if you go to localhost 3000/admin, you will get to the admin UI. You'll be presented with a sign-in screen like this. It will probably look more like this on your machine, but I've made this bigger. The credentials, as long as you didn't change them at the start, should be the username superadmin, password superadmin. And when you log in, you'll be presented with a dashboard. The dashboard is empty at the moment. I've not built the dashboard part yet. But I'll give you a little brief kind of tour of what you can do here. The kind of things you might expect. So you can list the products. As you can see, we've got, I think there was like 54 products spread out over the pages here. I can click on edit, and then I can see the detail of a particular product. A product has a name, a slug. A slug is this kind of URL friendly part. So in your shop, you can have like products/laptop and use that for your storefront URL. And a description, and you can have images. A product has variants. So for example, this laptop product comes in different various screen sizes and different configurations of RAM. And each of these variants has its own price. There is, of course, tax information, methods of controlling the stock levels, the inventory, and so on. I'm not going to go too much into all the details of these features. I invite you to kind of explore them and read the documentation in your own time. So we can also see that there's these things called facets, and facets are like ways of grouping information about your products. So for example, we have a brand facet, and we show the different brands. We have different colors or different types of plant. So if I go, for example, to the laptop again, you can see that it has some facets applied to it. The brand is Apple. The category facet is computers. These facets are used by Vendure to do things like grouping products together in collections, or for applying special discount rules, special shipping rules, and things like this. So the facets are quite widely used. And especially when the customer is searching for products, you might know this if you shopped on basically any modern e-commerce shop, something like Amazon. You can type in your search query, and then maybe on the left-hand side, you'll see these different filters, like show me only the ones that are from this brand, or show me only the ones with this particular feature. This kind of search is called faceted search, and this is why we have facets in Vendure. Products can also be organized into collections. So for example, I've got home and garden collection. They can have sub-collections. This can be used to generate kind of like a hierarchy or a tree of different categories. And then we have assets, which are basically images, but you can have other assets, let's say PDF files or videos or sound files, but typically it's product images. So Vendure includes a full kind of asset management system where we can preview them. We can also resize them dynamically and do quite some cool things with the assets. Okay, what else does an online shop need? Well, it should have customers. We don't have any customers yet. We'll change that shortly. And then hopefully you'll be seeing some orders. It allows you to set up promotions. The promotion system is quite flexible. You can give discounts on certain products, discounts on certain collections, or certain products with a particular facet, and so on. And then you've got lots of different settings. Something that may be of interest is that Vendure does support multi-languages. So let's see, if you want to have Nepali, I can add it here. And in my laptop product, I can edit it, and now I can say, well, let's put a different name and description in Nepali. No idea what that would be, but if you want to localize your catalog to your own native language, that's fully supported. In fact, someone write, how do you translate laptop into Nepali? Put it in the chat, and then I'll save it, and then we'll have a multilingual shop. Does it have a translation? Oh, okay. I'm gonna, should I attempt to pronounce this? Susankhya Yantra. Update. Okay, so now we have it in 2 languages. Great. Okay, cool. And the cool thing is then, let's go over back into our query editor, and let's go and find. Let's see. I'll start again with this. Let's say we want to find information. Oops. We want to find information about that one product with the ID. I think the ID is 1. And we want to have the name. So the name is laptop. I think I should be able to say language. Oh, no. Let's see. I'm not sure if I can do it here, actually. Okay, this editor's not letting me change the language code. But anyway, in your storefront, you can have, there's a method of changing the language code. Oh, what's this? What am I reading here? Is this the Nepali script? Okay, cool. Well, there we go. It supports that as well. It looks really nice. Wow, cool. All right. So yeah, we've got multi-language support. It's fully internationalized. It should work in any kind of territories where you want to operate. Okay, that's computer. Okay, good enough for me. So what time are we on? Whoa, time's getting on. Okay, we're going to jump over now to the storefront part. So we have the API running. We can get the information about our products. We have this admin UI where we can administer our products, add products, edit them, and so on. But then we need a shop. Okay, Vendure doesn't provide you with a shop. But I've built a kind of a demo shop, and we can have a go at installing that. So a little bit more work for everyone here now. Let's go to the GitHub repository. And we have a project called Storefront. I'm going to post a link in the chat. You should visit this website. GitHub, for those who don't know, is a very popular service for storing your code of programming projects, and it's almost used by almost every major project. Is it multi-vendor or single vendor? That's a good question. So right now, Vendure is primarily aimed at single vendor, although I have had lots of interest in supporting multi-vendor, and it's likely to come in the future, but I don't promise when that will happen. Okay, so if you arrive on this storefront project on GitHub, you'll see a button like this, code, and this lets us download it. There's 2 ways of doing it. If you're familiar with Git, you can clone it. If you don't have Git or you don't know how to use it, you can download a zip file. Okay, I think I'll download a zip because I think it's probably more familiar to everyone. Let's download the zip. Here. Okay, that was quick. It's very small. I'll now open up the folder and let's extract it I'll extract it into a directory called Storefront. Okay. Oh, what's the going? Okay, fine. So now I've got this storefront zip file unzipped. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run npm install. And this is going to install all the packages that the storefront application needs to run. The storefront is built with Angular, which is quite a popular framework for building web applications. So again, this is going to take like a couple of minutes, I think, to install everything. Same for you if you're following along. So while it's installing, if anyone has any questions, please throw them up into the group chat and I'll answer any, or if you have any problems or something like that. Otherwise, while it's installing, I'll give you a little bit of insight into why this headless architecture is become a really big thing now. So traditionally, there's been, question, did you make all these yourself alone? Pretty much. So if you look on GitHub, there's like, we have like, well, in fact, I'll show you. You can see my screen. It's going kind of slow while it downloads all that stuff. But basically, yeah, I've been working on this project for the past about 2 years, pretty much full time. So we have 16 contributors. So as the community grows, there's lots of people who are now like helping me out with it. But I would say, I guess like 99% of the stuff so far is done by me. Hopefully that changes over time and more people get even more involved. For production, is there any OS dependency? No, it can run on Linux, Mac, or Windows, although I would guess that the vast majority of web servers are running Linux. Is it safe to use? I hope so. It's used in production by a couple of projects already, by a few projects. It's not Chinese. Now let's not get into that. It's from a security perspective. I don't know, what can I say? Nothing's fully safe to use. There's no 100% secure software in the world, as far as I know. I've put a lot of thought into the security model for Vendure. I've tried to follow lots of best practices. So yeah, I'm of course not going to guarantee that it's like 100% safe, but it's open source. So you're free to go and have a look at how the security features are implemented. So far, there's not been any major problems with it. Someone asked me privately how long I've been coding. I'd say like a long time, for about 20 years, but like full time professionally for maybe 6 or 7 years. But in my younger years, I was kind of messing about with computers a lot and kind of doing hobby projects and stuff. Okay, let's see how we're doing on this npm install progress. It's still going. Okay. All right, someone's asking again about payment methods. So I'll take a chance to show you a little bit about how that works. So the way that the Vendure approach with a lot of things like payment methods, with shipping providers, with taxes and so on, is that it provides a way for you to define your own behavior. So if we take, for example, if we look at payment methods right here. Oops, discard changes. Wow, it's going so slow. so you can have different payment providers, and those payment providers, if you're familiar with object-oriented programming, the payment provider is an interface, and you can write your own class which implements this interface. This is the approach used by a lot of parts of Vendure, and it really gives you a lot of flexibility on what kind of different third-party services you can support. So, for example, in the business that I'm working with, we're using a payment provider called Braintree, which is part of PayPal. And so I've written a Braintree adapter for payment. And I guess it took me about 2 to 3 days to implement. Maybe it's a bit faster for me because I'm very familiar with how it all works, but it's not like a huge job to implement a new payment provider. But you can also then support completely different payment methods. Like here in Austria, it's very popular to do like direct bank transfers, or even like payment on delivery. And there's many different ways you can handle payments, and Vendure is flexible enough to support all of them. Someone asked me what laptop I use for coding. I am using a Dell XPS 15 from a couple of years ago. I upgraded to 32 gigs of RAM because I'm running a lot of Docker. Okay, so let's have a look again. Wow, this is taking a long time. Maybe it's even, it looks like it's hung a little bit. I'm not sure. Everything seems to be kind of running slow while I'm sharing my screen in Zoom. Is there any documentation for configuring payments? Someone is asking here. Yes, I can show you that. Vendure.io/docs is all the documentation. A lot of the documentation is actually generated from the source code. So if you look in the TypeScript API, you see a lot of documentation for things. One of the really nice things about using TypeScript to build this framework is that it allows you to do kind of interesting things with the documentation. I can pull all this type information out and put it straight into the documentation like this. So it means it's always up to date, which is kind of nice. So payment methods. Yeah, I think in the developer guide, payment integrations, there's a little page about this. The documentation is pretty good so far, but there's still areas that need a little bit more work. So yeah, there's a guide to payment integrations here. And then if you look into the API docs on payment method handler, you get a bit more information with some examples. So here, for example, is what a payment method implementation would look like. This is kind of a simplified version, but you get the idea. Okay, some more questions. Someone's asking, this is a good question. Someone's asking me privately about, do I have suggestions about learning web tech for a beginner, some kind of documentation or a book? This person says that for them, the documentation is overwhelming, which I can really understand. Well, all I can say is that the way that I got started with programming was just by doing very simple projects, just for fun and not trying to do anything really fancy. And just over time, by actually enjoying programming and practicing more just for the fun of it, because it was a hobby, I built up my knowledge in that way. That's how I got started. But this was like 15 years ago. But these days, there's a bunch of kind of other options if you like to learn from video tutorials or kind of video courses. There's lots of things like that from like Udemy or there's also like Free Code Camp, which I've heard a lot about. Yeah, there's many options. I think books are can be difficult to get started with. So we have some problems here with the Storefront installation. I think I've got some issues with sharing my screen and doing all this kind of stuff at the same time. It doesn't like it. So in that case, I'm going to skip that installation part. If anyone else got it working successfully, then well done, you're doing better than I am. But instead of that, I'll show you the demo of this storefront that's already online. So I have a Vendure demo that's always running online, and I'll just visit that, and I'll also paste the URL so you can all visit it as well. Okay, so if my npm install had worked properly then, and then I would have been able to run this application, which basically looks exactly like this one here. This is the demo storefront. So this is what your customers would see. So as you can see here, you can see the different categories. I can go into electronics. I can see all the different list of electronic products. And then I mentioned about the facets earlier. And right here, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. You can see the facets listed here. So let's say if I only want to see products that are from the Apple brand, I can click that. And it then limits it to those. Or if I want to see Apple and Polaroid, then I can see just those. I can click a product, open it up, and add it to the cart. So you can see the shopping experience is quite smooth. It's quite fast. It would be even faster if I was not sharing my screen. But there we go. View the cart, and I can check out. Now I've got a really interesting question. Did anyone actually get the storefront application installed? Because for me, npm was kind of freezing up a little bit there. Maybe no one did it. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. The last link I shared went to the wrong person. There's the storefront that I've just been showing you. So someone asked how to run it after that. So if you did get the storefront installed, you will then do npm run start, just like you did with the server. And then if you do npm run start, it should be available then on port 4. I'll write it down. Localhost 4201, I think, is the port where it's going to run. So if you managed to get the storefront installed, then you did better than me. Let's see. I'm going to just try it in case it did work. No, it didn't work. Okay. Yeah, and if you manage to get it running and then you go to localhost port 4201, you'll see basically exactly the same storefront application as what I've been showing you here on my screen, this one right here. What we can do is I can open up the developer tools, and we can just connect this a little bit up with what we saw earlier when we were in the GraphQL playground. And we can see how this storefront application is communicating with our backend server. So I've opened up the developer tools here in the browser. And if I navigate somewhere, you'll see all these different calls are being made to the server. And for example, if I click on one of these and have a look at it, you can see right here, this is a GraphQL request called get collection. It's asking for information about the home and garden collection. And if we preview the results that the server sends back, you'll see, oh, it looks just pretty much like what we saw in the GraphQL playground because it's using the exact same API. Okay, so let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to cover. Says NG not found. Okay. Yeah, if anyone's trying to run the storefront and they're getting an error like NG not found, that means that the npm install did not work correctly. So I actually tested this out just before we started the workshop, and of course it worked fine then. And then when we do the real workshop, then things always go wrong. It's just the way that these kind of tech demos normally go. But I'm glad that we made it that far without major issues, and I'm able to still show you anyway the storefront application and how it works and how the storefront communicates with the Vendure server. And I hope you then can kind of get an idea that then, of course, then, oh, you can have an Android app which is communicating in the same way with the same server at the same time as the web application. And this is the kind of benefit of this headless architecture. One problem in the past that older frameworks had was that the website was generated from the backend as well. So if you wanted to change your front-end website, you didn't have very much options to use a new technology or a different kind, or make a mobile app. It was very difficult. So the headless architecture allows you to treat your front-end applications, your storefronts, as completely separate projects, which can use any technology you want, mobile, web, inside the dashboard of a Tesla, or whatever you like, you know, so that you've got unlimited possibilities what you can do with your store data. Okay, so just to recap, we managed to install, I hope most of us managed to install the server and run the server, and can explore that now. We had a look at the storefront. If like me, you didn't manage to get it running now, you can try it again after the workshop, and I'm sure you'll be able to get it running. And yeah, that's what I wanted to show you with this workshop. So I hope you learned something, and I'm very happy to take any questions. Okay, someone's asking, any other pages we need will have to be maintained statically. So if you're talking about like just informational pages like contact us, about us, yeah, you've got a couple of options. You can just maintain them statically. You can have a HTML page, or what I would suggest is you use some kind of headless CMS, headless content management system. There's a bunch out there: Contentful, Prismic, Sanity.io. I think there's a whole bunch of headless content management systems, and you can just connect those to your storefront and manage them like that. Is WordPress headless? Traditionally, WordPress is not headless, although I believe that they do have an API, and I think you can get a plugin so it can even have a GraphQL API, although I've never used it. Someone asked me, sorry, just privately, someone says, can you say that the storefront install command? Yeah, to install the storefront, you want to say npm install. And oops, I'm doing it privately again. I keep talking to someone in private. I'm sorry. Let me copy that to the whole group. npm install. To install the storefront, you run npm install once you've unzipped it, and then assuming it installs correctly, then you want to run npm run start. Okay. Someone asks, on what scenarios do we need to edit the backend? So by edit the backend, I assume you mean make changes to the source code in the backend project. I would say you need to do that if you want to add custom functionality. hold on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can actually speak to you properly. Stop. Ah, good. Okay. Now let me get the chat. Where's the chat? Here we go. Yeah, so if you want to add custom functionality, let's say your products you want to include the weight with your products. So by default, Vendure is not tracking the weight of your products. You would then add the weight as a custom field to your products. And you do this by editing the backend code. By being able to edit the backend code, you can implement all sorts of more complex custom functionality, such as like product reviews, wish lists, loyalty points, affiliate schemes, all sorts of stuff that you would see on a typical e-commerce website. You can implement these into Vendure. It's very configurable or very extensible. Okay, there's a WhatsApp group. Okay, cool. Can I join? Okay, I'll have to take a look at that later. All right, someone's got a question. All right, someone's asking about, they don't know much about the back end or front end, but they're learning. So would Vendure be useful to a non-IT guy, an MBA like myself? Well, I will be honest, Vendure is aimed at developers. So it's not like something like Shopify where you can just kind of sign up and upload your product images and stuff and then have a shop up and running. Vendure doesn't work like that. It's aimed at developers building customized e-commerce websites. So really, I would say it depends how deeply you want to get into learning about programming. If you want to learn more, then you may eventually find that Vendure is something that you want to kind of find out more. It might be useful for a particular project that you've got. So I think it depends on your own journey. Okay, let's see what else we've got. So someone's asking about plugins, I think, here. Is it plug and play or hard interlinked code for extending functionality? So let's see what you mean by that. If you want a Vendure plugin is something that you need to, I guess, yeah, you need to kind of hard code it into your configuration. But it's very modular, so you can package plugins as, for example, npm packages, and then you can just include them in your configuration. And when the next time you start your server, it will have all this new functionality that the plugin brings. But it differs from something like, let's say, a Shopify plugin where you can actually just click on something on their web interface and install the plugin that way. Vendure doesn't work like that. It would require you to make at least a slight modification to your server configuration to install a plugin. How can I use Workbench instead of SQLite? If you've got MySQL running locally, you can. Okay, I think I'll share my screen to just answer this question. All right, if you have, let's see, whoa, low system resources. Wow, what's going on? So if you go into this Vendure config file, you will see that there's a section called DB connection options, database connection options. So this is where you configure the database connection. At the moment, it's connected to SQLite because that's what I said when I installed it. But there's other options. I can say MySQL, and then I can set the host and the port and so on. So basically, it's done through this connection options. Okay, hope that answers that question. There's documentation on it on the website. Is it kind of like PHP in Laravel framework. Yeah, it's comparable. It's also a framework, a bit like Laravel, whereas Laravel is a general purpose framework, so you can use Laravel to build any kind of website. Vendure is specifically aimed at e-commerce, so yeah, that's where it differs slightly from the idea of Laravel. Is there any sort of data model diagram? I can only find user story model in the docs. So I don't have a diagram of the full data model. Yeah, that's something that could be added, I guess. Yeah, it seems similar to Laravel. Okay, I'm kind of happy with if it seems similar to Laravel, because I believe Laravel's a well-liked and usable framework. So one of my prime goals is to make it very developer friendly. So you don't have to learn for a year to be able to use it properly. If you're familiar with JavaScript or TypeScript and Node.js, it's especially more easy. It's actually built on top of another framework called Nest.js, which is becoming increasingly popular, becoming one of the most popular Node frameworks, and Vendure's built directly on top of it. So if you know Nest.js, then lots of Vendure will feel very, very familiar to you. Someone asks, is there any RAM requirement while used in production? Well, of course, there is some kind of requirement. You need some amount of RAM, but I don't know exactly what. A lot of it depends on like how many products you have and so on, and what kind of traffic you're expecting. But to give you an idea, the demo server that's running at demo.vendure.io is running on, I believe, a 2 gig of RAM DigitalOcean droplet, for which I pay $5 a month. So it's kind of a very kind of small, underpowered server, but it runs just fine on that. If you want to use something like Elasticsearch, we provide an Elasticsearch plugin for an even better search experience. But if you want to run that, then you're going to need a lot more RAM, because Elasticsearch needs a lot of RAM. But for the basic installation, it runs on quite basic hardware. Okay, any other questions? How long would it take to code the same project using Django? Well, interestingly enough, there is a similar project in Django, which is called Sailor. I think that's their website. That's also an e-commerce framework written in Django, I believe. How long would it take me to code it in Django? It would take a long time, because I don't know very much about Python. But just to give you an idea, comparison, I've been working on Vendure for 2 years full time. It's very complex. There's a lot to think about when you're writing an e-commerce framework. So even just to understand how tax works in the EU, for example, is a whole project in itself. Yeah, it's quite a big project. What contribution work can be done in Vendure source project for beginner and intermediate level programmers? That's a great question. For beginner programmers, I mean, I would start off with, if you're a beginner and you want to get involved with helping me with Vendure, which I would love to have, I would recommend kind of, first of all, taking a look at Nest.js and learning about that, because that's what Vendure is built on top of. And if you're kind of intermediate level, then I would say, like, if you look at the GitHub issue tracker, which I'll post a link to it. So on GitHub, all the kind of issues of like bugs and then features that we want to have, we put them in this issue tracker. And here's the link. So you can always have a look at this issue tracker and see if there's anything that seems like maybe you could contribute. If you want to contribute, then please contact me. And even if you feel like you need some help to some guidance to work through this particular issue, I'm very glad to do that. I'm always I'm always happy to help new people start on their programming journey, or just improve if you're already intermediate and you want to get some more experience with different technologies. Okay, so now we've been cutting off because they were going over the time limit we have. That's right. Okay, so thank you very much for attending. Thank you for all the questions. Yeah, we have a Slack channel if you want to get involved in the Vendure community more. I can post a link to it. Yeah, someone had a technical glitch and they got lost. That's totally fine. I had one as well. I got lost, but you know, you got to deal with it. Okay, is anyone, anyone want to say any last words to wrap up then? Because I think that's all from me then for now.
Hello. So maybe I can just wrap up the event. So like as many people got interested in Vendure, so I'll also like to announce that Michael is one of our mentor for the hackathon on July 31 and August 1 also. So you can talk with him on that days also regarding this e-commerce things and his technical skills if you would like to take part. So you can just see the details on the chat for the people who haven't registered for the event. So you can just talk with him on that event and show your skills. You can also use the e-commerce framework of Vendor in the hackathon to showcase some of your skills under the theme if that works. Similarly, you can also use it in a real life application, like as Michael has posted the Slack link. You can see I'll also post one two of the real world examples of the e-commerce on the WhatsApp group. So if you can see it later, anyone would like to see how is the real life Vendor working. There are some examples which have been working in India, in Singapore, and even we are also building an e-commerce named Dafe using the Vendor. So you guys can also look at it. I'll just post it here. So similarly, that's all. And I'd also love to announce for the second workshop that's being on Monday. It's named Social Entrepreneurship with Julia from Singapore. So anyone interested who have attended this event can also join for that. And I guess that's all wrap up. So I like to end for the closing speech to our president, Mr. Jai Kishan, and we can just stop the event.
Okay. Thank you, Michael, for the wonderful workshop on the Vendure. As you know, like e-commerce industry is really thriving, and those startup business who want to dive into e-commerce, so they can really use Vendure rather than building code from the scratch. So it was really cool workshop, and thank you guys for joining and making this even great. And I think Biplav want to share some screen related to Dafe. Biplav.
Yes, surely. So we just wanted to show all them that we have just developed an e-commerce using this same vendor framework, and which is going to be launched soon in Nepal within the next month. So maybe Sajil Awale, can you please share the screen so that people can see the real world example at least live at this moment. So you can just see, just go to dafe.store. Like we have modified a lot and it's launching soon. So this is the storefront we have been building where you can like just get notified. And similarly, can you please show the, similarly, you can also see the the changes we have made in our that. Yeah, so people have already seen our the DAFE, so that's really good. So, Sazil, can you please also show the admin panel to the people so that they can really get in the show? See, we have also modified even the images and icons and everything to our own brand from the vendor so that we can like use it as a storefront as well as the admin panel from us. So you can just see the all those features that Michael has been using. We also just build and plug in ourselves related to tracking sales. So we are also adding some local payment vendors like Isewa and Khalti in our vendor platform, and we'll be launching it with that feature by the end of July. So you can just go to dafe.store and stay updated for those things. And if you want to know more about Dafe, what does it do, and why is it a new e-commerce, then you can just ping me up, or you can just ask me in the WhatsApp chat or in my social media. So maybe that's all. from my side, I think now we can just wrap up for the event.
Okay.
So Michael, any
Great.
comments?
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. And I've already got 3 people in the Slack right here, so welcome.
Oh yeah, so, there is a link for certificate where people can, anyone who is here, just click on it and you will get a e-certificate of the attendance for the event. So we'll just keep last 2 minutes for the people to visit the certificate link. And also the quantum app link if they are interested for the hackathon.
Okay, great.
And also said you can join the WhatsApp, you can join Slack, or you can join any platform easier to use so that you can stay connected with Vendure, me, and Quantum Hack team, as well as Michael.
Great. Yeah, I'll try and join that Slack and maybe I'll show up there a little bit later.
For those who are interested for
WhatsApp.
the hackathon, yeah, Quantum Hack is going to be a 24-long hackathon, and it is to be hosted on 31st July and 1st August. So those who want to make change in the society, create something really useful in short time, and to be connected with the world-class mentors and to be recruited in the top companies, so they can join Quantum Hack, register now, and participate in the event if you got selected. And
If you
you'll
don't
get
want to take part, you can also share it to your friends. Maybe many of them may be interested. So you can just pick up the link and share with your group. I think we can just end it now.
Good. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Michael. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Photo session.
Okay, so audience, can we take a small photo session? So can you please open your camera? Whoever is able may just open your camera and let's take a session of all the lovely audience for the event. Okay, Mr. Akash.
Session attend गरेको के रहेछ यसो बुझ्नु
Done.
Okay. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
guys. Bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Stay safe. And keep programming.
Keep hacking.
Yeah, if you have missed the certificate, just join the WhatsApp chat also. We'll just send there also the link. So you may just join there also. You'll get updates on that WhatsApp channel too regarding Quantum Hack certificates and other workshops.